Kate, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Um, right off the bat, I just kind of wanted to get into who you are, where you had your surgeries done, what you're doing now.
So I'm 18 years old. I had all of my surgeries at St. Louis Children's Hospital, but I'm from Jackson, Missouri. And right now I am planning to graduate high school in May, and I'm planning for college, so that's exciting. So I'll be attending college in August, and I will be majoring in human development and family studies with a concentration in child life. And I plan to become a certified child life specialist.
Awesome. That's so amazing. So, right away, I barely know what a child life specialist is. We talked briefly about it, but I would love to know more about that. And I bet the people around who are listening would also like to know more about that.
Yeah. So I first got introduced to child life after my third open heart surgery. I was 4 years old and I got ICU delirium after that surgery. And mentally, I kind of shut down. I was healing physically, but mentally, I was just not there. I didn't know day and night difference. And child life was the only way that I kind of got out of that. They brought therapy dogs, they had music therapy, they let me do my nails, they let me do their hair, things like that. But child life really helps not only the patient, but also the siblings and the family members just emotionally and psychologically with their stay and anything that they need. And they also provide bereavement support if that's what's going on. So they're really there just emotionally for everybody involved with their say in what's going on.
That's amazing. That sounds like something I wish I had when I was in the hospital. So, that is so cool. And college, going away to college and stuff. I haven't gone away for college, so I have stayed here and just decided to work. So I'm still with my family and stuff. But I bet that can. I haven't talked to anyone else who has been, moving away with HLHS and stuff and like trying to like, live on their own and stuff. Obviously, there are people older than us, but our age and stuff trying to figure it out. So I bet that can kind of take, a toll mentally as well as like now we have new people who have to figure out our conditions and how does that look for you moving away? Do you have like a plan set in place or has your doctor told you specific things that you have to do going away or where are you? I guess having to ask if you're where are you going to college if you're staying in town or if you're moving out?
So I'm planning on going to the University of Alabama, which is not close to Missouri, so far away. And my team at St. Louis Children's Hospital, I've had since I was born, just all of my specialists, they know me and I feel comfortable with them. So going away is a little bit anxious for me just because these people don't know me. And obviously, as having HLHS, we can't just go to any hospital. We have to have cardiologists that specialize in our condition. So whenever I've had my appointments with my cardiologist and other specialists, they make sure that I am able to find a hospital where I go to college that knows how to take care of me, and that I find that wherever I decided to go, which I did, and so that's good. And so that kind of eases my way, but definitely not something that I was prepared for just because I didn't know. I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. But yeah, getting a new team, I think, will be good once I get it. It's just a little different, but I'm excited.
Right. Now, kind of backing up to your surgeries and stuff, did you have the three surgeries and nothing other complications after that? Because I know a lot of people with HLHS will have liver or lung complications
Yeah.
as well. Did you have anything like that happen to you while you were growing up, or was it just the three surgeries and everything was pretty normal per se?
Yeah, so I had the three surgeries, and then my cardiologist told me that normally 10 years post Fontan is when they start routinely checking for liver disease. And so I had my Fontan at 4 years old. So once I was 14, I started getting liver ultrasounds and CT scans of my liver. And I think it was like every 6 months to a year, depending on what it looked like. And right now I have lesions on my liver, so they're monitoring every 6 months. And that's just something that is just a part of the Fontan. If when you get that, that's just what they told me to prepare for, which I'm so glad that they did. And so I actually have an appointment in July with my liver doctor, and I'll get the scans done. And she says that whatever that shows will help me, you know, find a doctor in Alabama that can also check for that as well as, you know, cardiac wise too. So it's just always something to think about.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know about you, but they haven't talked to me a lot about my liver, so I didn't even know that that was like a thing, like 10
Yeah.
years post Fontan that you're supposed to be checking for that stuff.
Mhm.
Because I remember my cardiologist, I literally talked to him yesterday. I just had an appointment, and like we don't discuss my liver like at all. Like that's just not something that he's like concerned about at the moment. A lot of our topics are discussed mainly around my atrial tachycardia episodes at the moment because those are being weird right now. Anyway, um, actually, were you told any of this as well? Did you have liver complications growing up?
Oh, so yeah, I also had to go through the 10-year post-Fontan liver biopsy process. I don't know if, Kate, that was something that you experienced, but I get a cardiac and liver MRI every 6 months, and it's just part of my normal appointments now. I did have a liver biopsy when I was 13 or 14 for my 10 years post-Fontan, just to check what was going on, what it looked like, and it ended up being fine. I've never had to do another one since then. So basically, for me, I've never had an issue with my liver. It's just very maintenance based and just making sure that it's being maintained and I'm still looking good. So it's kind of normal for me, but it's never really been like a problem.
Interesting. Is this, I don't know if it's, I wouldn't think it would be like a gender specific thing. That wouldn't make sense, right?
I'm not entirely sure, but I
I
also
don't think
don't,
so.
I don't know because I still feel like I don't know that many people that I can talk to about it. Like, I don't know enough people with my condition to be able to, like, ask around if that was something that they experienced.
Yeah,
But
and this is exactly why we're doing it because these are the conversations I want to have because it's so interesting to see what people do and don't do. Um, Kate, I wanted to know kind of what do your cardiology appointments look like? Is that every 6 months for you? Is that every year? Mine are every 6 months, and I haven't had to move to adult care yet. I don't know if that's something that you've had to do yet, but um, thankfully my cardiologist in town has decided to keep me on for a little bit longer because he knows me so well, and there's not really anything else within like a 3 hour drive of me. So like, I've been very grateful that he's kept me on, but is what do your cardiology appointments look like right now, and are you transitioning to adult care soon?
So I actually just had a cardiology appointment in February, and everything, I had like an echo, and then I just met with my cardiologist. And everything looked good for the most part. I have a stent in my aorta, and that obviously doesn't grow with me, and I haven't had a cath to open that in a while. So I think this summer I'll have that and just get that fixed before I go away, and not in Missouri anymore. But really, that appointment was just preparing for, you know, moving away. And I also have something called the Fontaine Clinic where I check with just specialists for my brain, my lungs, kind of everything. And I also have what's called a transition team that I meet with, a part of the Fontaine Clinic. And it's just people that come in and talk about possible transplant if and whenever that time comes, but also talking about transitioning into adult care if I choose to do that. My children's hospital says that they'll still take me until I kind of either move away like forever or just don't want to anymore. So I don't plan on switching teams like fully until I just really forever move away, which I'm super grateful for. But it's really just preparing me for the future and kind of doing it on my own and preparing for everything rather than just kind of taking it little steps at a time, I guess.
Awesome. No, that's really great because I think it's so different for everyone and how they do it with their cardiologist or with their care team and stuff. Like I don't, since I'm at a smaller hospital here in Indiana, I don't have a care team. Like if I were to move back to Michigan and go up there every 6 months, they would actually bring me like a Fontaine care team, and that's where that would all be set up. But for right now, it's just me and my cardiologist here. So, which I'm kind of grateful for that I don't have like a whole lot of things that I have to go and do and stuff. But um, no, that's great that you're still able to stay on and stuff. Something else that I kind of wanted to get to was you seem very involved in your health and obviously you want to be working within the hospitals and stuff with the child life specialist. Are there any programs you're a part of or any camps that you've attended and stuff before?
I have attended what's called Camp Rhythm, which is it's my hospital, St. Louis Children's, and then Cardinal Glennon Hospital, which is also in St. Louis. And if you've had any open heart surgery, you can attend this camp. And it's just a week overnight camp. They have a day camp too for little kids, which I also went to. I think I started that like when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I've went to the overnight camp. I think that started when I was like 9 years old. I feel like I was like so young. But all the counselors either have a heart condition too and have had open heart surgery, or are like nurses and stuff. So they have cardiologists from hospitals there. They have child life specialists that are there on site. And it's just like a normal camp. You rock climb, you swim, you do all the things. It's just you're surrounded with people that have gone through experiences like you, which is just so awesome. And this summer, I'm actually going to be a counselor there and go back, which I haven't been since my freshman year in high school. So I'm super excited to go back and just be with those people.
That's so cool. Ashley, I don't know about you. I never went to these camps as a kid. I didn't, there was nothing near me. So I like didn't really know about them. And I didn't know that there was such a community out there like that. So Ashley, did you go to any camps as a kid?
That was never really a thing for me, heart camp. I mean, like, just you talking about it right now, Kate, that's the first time I've ever heard about anything like that.
Yeah.
I've never been exposed to it when I was a child.
Yeah.
I did have a friend who went to cancer camp when she was young, which obviously I feel like that's more common, but that's, yeah, because there's like cancer camp, diabetes camp,
Wow.
heart camp. Never really thought like that was the thing. It was never a thing for me. But that's really cool that you got to experience that.
Yeah.
I think it's so neat because I definitely heard of them as a kid, but it never like intrigued me as much, obviously, as it does now. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool to become a counselor or something like that at
Yeah.
one of the camps and just be around people with my condition and stuff. So that is, and other conditions as well. Like that would just be is super, super cool. So, um, we talked briefly, when we had a meeting a few weeks ago about the Youth American Heart Association and how you're an ambassador with them. Ambassador, right? Is that the correct
Yes.
term? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, first of all, that's the first time I'm hearing that I can like be a part of it, and I think that's so cool. What, okay, so for one, what did you do to get in? Because I feel like people listening would be interested to know how to do that. And then two, what do you do for them, and like how does it work to work with them?
So to be a National Youth Heart Ambassador, I submitted a video, and you don't have to have a heart condition or anything to actually be an ambassador for them. You can go in as an advocate too and share a story, whether you've lost someone to a cardiac arrest or similar things like that, or have someone you know that has a heart condition. But I submitted a video and I shared my story and why I'm passionate about just educating people and sharing heart health and things like that. And I was picked as one of the ones. There are 12 survivors and then 3 advocates. There's 15 national ambassadors total. And this year I went to schools around my region and we did presentations for the Kids Heart Challenge and American Heart Challenge, where you just share about heart health and things that kids need to know about keeping their heart healthy and just educating them. And we also had stories of like videos and stories that we shared of other kids that had heart disease, which was just super educational. We also got to teach them hands only CPR, which I think everyone needs to know. So it was just such a blessing to be a part of something like that. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to do that this year.
That's so neat. And I love that It's like so the youth AHA stuff as an ambassador with them, are you able to be an ambassador as an adult, or how does that, are you still able to do the same things as an adult, or how does that work?
I think it's like National Youth Heart Ambassador, so I don't know if I can do it again. I think there's other things that you definitely can do, that you can like submit videos for, be nominated for. I know there's Teen of Impact and other things like that, so I need to definitely look into that.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm super interested in it
Yes.
as well, and I think that is just a fantastic thing that they have to do and stuff. So no, that's super cool. Something that I always like to bring up in these podcasts is like the sports and activity side of things. Like me and Ashley, I played basketball growing up, and Ashley did cheer. And so, were you able to be as active as you wanted to? Were you told no by your cardiologist, like you can't do this or don't do that? There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot, I hear a lot from, especially parents asking me questions like, what is my kid going to be able to do? And I'm scared to let them do anything.
Yeah.
And I always ask this to people because I feel like that's such a kind of more of a thing of like when this surgery first started coming out, we didn't know what everyone could do, and now that it's been 30 years, we're able to do a lot more. So I wondered what your cardiologist was able to tell you, and then what have you been able to do?
So my cardiologist told my parents after I think my third open heart surgery. My parents are like, she's still so young and she's fragile and she just had open heart surgery and like all of these things. And so my parents were a little bit just like, I don't know if, we should put her in anything, but also it's good to just be active in general as a kid. And my cardiologist told my parents that they didn't do 3 open heart surgeries on me to just live in a bubble and like not live life to the fullest and do what I want to do. And so my parents kind of took that and really took it. And so I started dance when I was 4 years old, and I am still doing dance, and I love it. It's my passion. And then I've also done cheer for I think 6 years. So I haven't let it stop me. I definitely have limitations, but I think just having a heart disease in general, you kind of learn it over time. I mean, especially if it's congenital, you just know. So I know my limitations and I know when to, stop and take a break, but I don't let what I want to do stop me from what I want to do. So
That might be the greatest quote from a cardiologist I've ever heard. Like that is the greatest thing that he could have said. So that's fantastic. I do want to talk about what limitations do you see when you're doing this? Is it like fatigue, or like my biggest thing is fatigue for me. Is it fatigue, or are you able to, I mean, are you able to keep up with everyone? Like that's something that my cardiologist asks me all the time. Every time I'm in there is, are you still able to keep up with everyone? And I'm always so glad to be like, yes, I can still run with everyone and keep up in all the sports that we play and stuff. So what do the limitations look like for you?
mine is definitely fatigue. I when we do our dances full out, it might only be 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but it's just a lot and it's hard on my body just because I'm exerting myself so much, even if it's just for a short amount of time. And so after I do it, I just am so exhausted. I'm definitely more exhausted than my peers, but I kind of tell myself like I'm supposed to be exhausted, like if I'm not, I'm doing something wrong. But definitely fatigue. And one thing that helps me is just staying hydrated and taking that rest time. I've definitely learned over time that if I keep trying to push myself and telling myself I'm okay and just keep running it, that I'm not actually helping my body, I'm hurting it. And so it's just something I've had to learn over time. But I want to keep dancing. So learning my limitations and actually resting and staying hydrated and doing all of those things is just helping me overall.
Actually, I don't know if it's the same for you. Obviously, I know you cheered as well in high school and college. Did you have these same limitations, or were they different? Did you feel as fatigues, or how did that work for you?
So, I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty much able to keep up with my peers and whatever we need to do. And I mean, as I became an adult and I started kind of speaking out for myself, I cheered 4 years in college, and my coaches, my teammates were always aware of my condition. and it was always very apparent to them when I would be seeming a little bit more tired, and they were always okay with allowing me to take a break, even though sometimes I kind of didn't want to because I didn't want to give the idea that I couldn't keep up or that I was kind of feeling a little bit behind, but it's not a huge debilitating problem for me. And it's not something that I it's not something that I feel ashamed to do, take breaks from my body. It used to be, but I mean, for me now, it's like I know that I'm doing what I need to do to make sure that I stay safe. But I did have a question I actually wanted to ask you guys. I came up with this. Like, I ask myself this all the time. So I wanted to hear your guys' opinions. So I know that we're all athletes and we all have the same heart condition, and it seems that we're all doing great in all of our activities. We can all keep up very, very well. But something that I've always thought to myself is like, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I always have thought, imagine how much better I would be if I didn't have a heart condition, how good of an athlete I would be if I was like normal, like everybody else. I just wanted to see if that's something you guys ever think about or what opinions you have on that statement, if you think your performance would be different athletic wise.
Kate, take it away.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I have a dance competition this weekend, starting tonight, actually. And I have been in the studio this week working on my solo, working on my group dances, and the fatigue is just really hitting me, and
Mhm.
it's not the same like every day. Like there's some days I'm like I'm not fatigued at all, and there are some days where it's just really hitting me
Mhm.
a lot harder. And I think that's super hard too because it's just not, where other people my age are just going along and doing what in my head I'm supposed to be doing too. And
Right.
in reality it's just not like that. So I'm like, ugh, imagine if I, wasn't having to take breaks or wasn't this exhausted during my dance, I would be looking so much better, and I could be performing so much better. And so it's definitely a mindset thing, and it's hard to control, but I can't, change anything about it, like about my heart condition. The only thing I can change is my attitude about it,
Mhm.
is how I view it. And so that's just what I have to do, even though it's a little bit hard.
Mhm.
I No, that is fantastic, and I think that for me, back in high school when I played basketball 4 years of high school, like competitive basketball, and we would have practices twice a week and then usually a game, one or two games during that week as well. And so during those practices, we're sprinting. We're doing sprints all the time. And I remember like I wanted to keep up with everyone and wanted to participate in these sprints and stuff, and just like obviously the coaches knew and everyone around me knew that I couldn't do it. But I felt like I was always frustrated by that because I was like I don't want to look like the odd kid out. Like I want to be able to play as hard as I can and stuff. And so like I've always wondered, especially in basketball, um had I had a a full heart and was able to not be tired as much, and because I would sit out those sprints like I mean most of the time because you're doing sprints and then you're going back into a different drill and then you're having to shoot for 30 minutes or whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm just exhausting myself at this point, and it's a 2 hour long practice. And I remember just being, I was tired after every one of them, but I was also in the best shape of my life then. I have declined so much since high school. But no, I always thought, yeah, had I had been normal, I wonder how much more my body could have taken. And
Right.
especially with that transition to college, I played pickleball in college, which is such a funny sport. But I remember last May, I was in a turn. I played in a tournament down in Cincinnati. It was 85 degrees that day, and I hadn't ate a lot of food. And we had already been playing for 2 hours out in the heat. And during one of the matches, I ended up having one of my atrial tachycardia episodes. And we're like in the playoffs for this tournament, and we're doing so well. And then we had to forfeit because I couldn't play anymore. I just got super sick. Obviously, everyone who was watching, and then the doctor, the EMT that came over and stuff, they're like, "What is going on?" And they're freaking out. And I'm like, it was just like it was a nightmare because it was like there's all these people around me as I'm feeling super sick and I have to explain to everyone what's going on. And I just remember like, man, had I not, if I felt normal in this spot or if I didn't have a heart condition, how much better that tournament would have gone. The embarrassment of that didn't have to happen. And so I definitely think that obviously I would have felt better. The heat wouldn't have affected me as much. And I would have been stronger and, been able to play longer and stuff like that. And so I had to step away kind of from competitive sports now just because I'm worried about stuff like that to happen again. So I'm still able to be as active as I want. But I think that had I, if I was normal, I was like using normal. If I had a normal heart, I think that things would uh, be easier. But I also think it's just like Kate said, it's just a mindset. It's just, trying to really bring that positivity to like, hey, at least I was able to play high school basketball for 4 years and I was able to play in these tournaments and play pickleball competitively and stuff like that. And I think that that's where people, especially patients and parents, have to know with their kids, like, of course, it's not going to be perfect and we're not going to be professional athletes. Well, maybe that'd be really cool if there was. But I think that like I've just been so grateful to be able to participate in these sports and be able to be with friends and stuff like that. And I think that's such a big thing to be a part of a community and stuff like that. And so I think yes, it would have been easier had I have a normal heart condition, have had a normal heart, but I think I'm just grateful for the fact that I've been able to play and participate in these sports. So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a mindset thing, and people, patients growing up thinking, well, I can't do that because I'm worried to mess something up or whatever. Like, you still have to live your life, and you can't live it so scared. And like Kate's cardiologist says, they didn't do all three open heart surgeries that you could just live in a bubble.
Yeah.
So I think that that's amazing. But um, something, yeah, like kind of moving into this, like Kate, you didn't have any. I think we might have covered this already, but like no limitations growing up and stuff, right? Like that was
Yeah.
just like, and so your parents were just automatically like, yeah, let's go to dance and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which I think is fantastic, and I think that that's the way it should be. Obviously, there's other things that come with HLHS that can prevent stuff like this, but um, obviously we're doing very well, and I think that that's something else that kind of takes a toll on me, especially mentally, is that I'm doing really well with this condition, and there's a lot of people that aren't, and there obviously are patients who aren't surviving these surgeries and stuff like that. And so, Kate, I don't know if it's like this for you, but for me, like I definitely have felt that kind of like survivor's guilt before, and especially you wanting to kind of work in the hospital space and stuff like that, and you've gone to camps and have met other people with conditions, and I bet you've seen kind of people who are doing better and people who aren't. And um, do you think about any of that survivor's guilt at all, or is that not something that has really crossed your mind?
I definitely think about it. I think because of that camp, I was so, I had the opportunity to meet so many people, with heart conditions and just like learn so much. And also have so many friendships that, I wouldn't have like without that experience. But with that, I've seen people get their heart transplants, and like live their life so well. And I've also seen people still with their heart condition, like us living their life so well. But the downside of that is I've also seen people who, haven't gotten their heart transplants and who are living in the hospital or who have passed away, and so it's a blessing and a curse in the same way, and I think it's hard and that's one of the sad parts of, living with heart disease is seeing people, going through hard things, or pass away, and you have that guilt of I'm here, and they're not, and that's not fair. But like I'm gonna live my life to the fullest, and that's our life is just such a gift. Any life is such a gift in general, and so living my life to the fullest, I feel like is the best thing that I can do in any matter.
I think that's the perfect answer to that, and I think obviously we can only affect we can only affect what we can, and that's
Yeah.
ourselves and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a really important and great mindset to uh that's a really great mindset to have towards that. So um but I do there's something that I think about a lot. Actually, we've talked about this too, about kind of the anxieties or worries about the future and stuff. And like we've always thought about, like, am I going to have a heart transplant? Am I going to have
Mhm.
another open heart surgery? Just all these other major things that could come up. And thankfully I don't have anything major scheduled, but every time I go to the cardiologist, I'm always worried, like, they're going to tell me I have to have another surgery, they're going to tell me this and this.
Mhm.
And I literally just made a video yesterday when I was going to my cardiologist appointment. Like, I'm just going to try to have such a different mindset about this. Like,
Mhm.
I think all these extremely negative thoughts before going into it, like, obviously, like the big surgeries and what are they going to tell me is wrong this time. But it's also like, well, what if things are going better this time? What if I was doing the right things and now, my valve leak has gotten better or whatever it may be? So, Kate, do you have much anxiety about the future and stuff like that? Or are you doing well enough that you think that it's just going to be easy, smooth sailing from here?
I definitely have anxiety about the future. I think with moving away to college, I think it's just kind of a big thing. Because I'm going away to college, all of my appointments are kind of right before I'm leaving. And so in my head, I'm like, what if, something is bad at that appointment and then I, have to have a surgery, or like something changes when I have to go away, But then again, what if it's fine and I can just go to college? So it just depends, but it's you never know about the future, and I just hate the unknown, and so I think that's the
Mhm.
hardest part about it. But we can't do anything about it, so I just go to the appointment and just pray. So
Um,
Kate, is there anything else that you were hoping to talk about or bring up in this podcast?
Cole, you talked about um growing up like faster than others.
yeah.
Like I don't know about you guys, but like my mom, like my parents like trusted me with like taking my medicine like
Mhm.
on my own, like pretty young. Like, just because I that's what taking my medicine every day of my life. Like, and that was my normal. Whereas other kids it's not. And so it's just like
Yeah.
that was our normal.
I
Yeah.
was just talking to another woman earlier this week, and we were saying how she was saying, like, how it affects our family, and how she's like, how we kind of she's like, I feel like a burden sometimes because obviously everything is centered around me and my health a lot of the times, and she's like, I feel bad for my siblings and stuff. And I have definitely felt that before. So I'm like, I wonder, yeah, if others have. Actually, you're an only child, so
Yeah. But
yeah, um,
Mhm.
but I've definitely felt that before with my family and stuff. But yeah, let's definitely touch on uh growing up and kind of growing up faster, because my friends growing up, like, when I started hanging out with my friends, like, we didn't they obviously didn't have to think about um not playing too hard, or like and then obviously the medicines and stuff. And like, I remember my mom was always worried about me playing football with them or whatever, and like, don't get hit in the chest. And so it's like it was a weird thing early on to have to understand. And obviously as a kid you're not thinking about, you're not really thinking about it. But now as an adult, I'm like,
Wow.
my health is the most important thing to me now. So I'm um like, me and my friends are going to Colorado this summer for a trip, and I'm like, it's going to be hot there, and we're going to be up in the mountains. And if I have one of my atrial tachycardia episodes in the mountains, this is what you guys got to know to do. And so, like, it's a weird thing that I have to think about now, and that they haven't ever had to deal with. And I think that that's an important thing that kids with a congenital heart disease have to know early on, is that, I mean, you do have to grow up a little bit faster. And I think that it can be harder, but since it's always been a part of my life, I've never been like,
Mhm.
I mean, it's frustrating at
Yeah.
times, obviously.
I mean, for me, it was just like when I was young, I was aware of my condition, but nobody around me really was because I was a child. And it was always difficult to explain at my young age to other kids at the time who were my age just how complex my condition was, because I didn't even completely understand it at the time. I just knew it was there. And even as an adult, I'm finally realizing, like, I now know all the complexities of my condition, and it's still that much harder to explain it to people my own age. And I don't want to say it's exhausting, but it definitely does get a little bit old, because I feel like I could talk about it all day long to somebody and they could never completely understand how it affects me 24/7.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it affects me in a bad way, but there are so many little things that I feel like I think about regarding my health that a lot of people don't have to consider. So it's just, I don't really think I treat myself like I'm fragile, but I definitely take more caution when I'm just going about my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people honestly don't really have to do that. So it's a little bit
Kate, when you started getting into dance early on, did you know that you had to be careful or knew that you were gonna get tired? Did you tell your coaches or anything early on, or how did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I mean, all of my teachers knew and stuff, and they like at that time, my lips were so blue. They're like, "What?" So like I knew when I needed to sit down, and they're like, "Kate, you need to sit down," things like that. But like in my head, I kind of like actually like knew what I had, but it wasn't until I feel like I was in like middle school where I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
like this is like kind of a big deal. And then it was kind of like, wow, I know all these like medical terms and these kids don't have to. Then it was kind of like that type of thing.
Mhm.
But
I think explaining it to my close friend group,
yeah.
they still have no idea,
Yeah.
and we're all 20 something now, but, like, I didn't understand why I had to be like, when I was so young, I didn't understand why I had to be so careful. I was like, it's fine. I feel fine, and,
Mhm.
like, when I felt okay, I was like, why does it matter? I had played basketball when I was, 5 years old as well, and so I was like, I didn't understand why it was such a big deal, but now, obviously, as I got into high school and stuff and, uh all my teammates understood and stuff like that. And, um, but it was weird to feel like, they're worrying about they're worrying about their day to day stuff with their school and stuff, and I'm worrying about uh, a lot more major problems. And I'm like, um, sometimes would feel cool about that because I'm like, oh, not like you said, Kale. I'm like, oh, I know all these medical terms now, and I do all this and stuff. But then, obviously, as a kid, I really uh, was frustrated by it because it was
Yeah.
like, why do I get tired quicker, and why do I have to sit down more, and why do I have these atrial tachycardia episodes were like the big thing for me about was I was getting really sick from them and stuff. And so um, I think it is important that kids know as they're growing up, or parents know for their kids, that they're gonna have to grow up faster because I mean, that's the thing that's gonna be kind of forced onto them because uh, there's no getting around it. But I think another thing, like the comparison side of things that we've kind of talked about, but like when I played high school basketball, I was always like kind of how we said, like how we would feel normal. Like I'm always like, I wish I could
Hmm.
do that, and I wish I could feel better and stuff. Kate, did you uh, when you were in dance and stuff, did you compare to yourself to people? Do you still find yourself doing it? Because I still find myself doing it because I'm like, I don't know if that's ever gonna go away, but I've obviously learned to deal with it and stuff and handle it in a better way. But how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, I definitely still compare myself. I think even in dance, I feel like just with competing, the whole thing is kind of comparison, unfortunately. Um, but there are times where, I'll look at people and I'm just like, I wish I, wasn't as fatigued and like I would look better and things like that. So I still compare. And when I was little, I think I didn't as much just because it was like when I was younger, it was more like a fun, like I was like, oh, this is just fun. But obviously, as I got older, I just kind of realized more like how my heart condition played a role into that and how I needed to take care of myself within dance and stuff. And I think that's when I was like, oh, okay, like a little different. I have to do these things in order to still dance, um, even though it's not what everybody else has to do.
Yeah. Ashley, did you have similar things growing up?
Mm, well, I wasn't really much of an athlete until I was a little bit older. I played volleyball in middle school, and then when I got to high school and college is when I started cheerleading. So I think for me, volleyball when I was in middle school was definitely more physically demanding to me than cheerleading ever was, just because we were expected to run so much, to do all these things, and at a quick pace. And that was when I felt like I was comparing myself to my peers the most, because that was one thing that I've struggled with my whole life is like I could never keep up with anyone running. I was always bad at it. I would always get tired. So I think whenever I made that switch to cheerleading, it was still a little bit difficult, but I never felt like I was behind. And I definitely at that time had a better idea of what I could do and what my limits were. So I definitely felt more comfortable in cheerleading and I loved it the most. So I never really like wanted to do anything else besides that. But I think I definitely had to start taking into account my condition as I got older, and it did become more physically demanding. As an adult on a collegiate team, there's higher expectations. So I think just being vocal about my limits and the complexities of my condition and allowing my coaches and my teammates to kind of understand what I go through with my health, it kind of helped ease the transition from like a fun, like little rec team to like a serious competition style. Like this has to be done a certain way or not at all. But it was never like a huge deal. I was still able to do everything I needed to do. And I quickly lost that fear of comparing, like, what if I'm not as good of an athlete as my teammates? Because I feel like I eventually felt like I was on the same level as them as I kind of matured in my condition.
I think that it's so important that we've all found the sports or the activities that have worked for us.
Mhm.
Like when I played basketball in high school, that obviously wasn't going to be a sport that I could play for long. Basketball is a very hard and tolling sport on your body. And I am now like I've got really into pickleball and now I'm very much into golf, and golf is a much easier sport on your body. And so, but it's still something I'm able to do with friends and able to, have a community around and stuff. And so I think that that's the biggest thing is like us with HLHS, we're still able to play sports and be in activities and stuff. I think that's so great. You just kind of have to find what works for you and what you're able to do. And I think that that's super important. That's kind of the takeaway I want to give parents and patients who are growing up thinking that they can't do anything today. Like, no, like there's definitely something out there for you. You just kind of have to work at it for a little bit. And I definitely think that you can find it. But yeah, Kate, thanks so much for joining us today. We really loved having you on. I think that, um, yeah, it was a great conversation. I think people are going to be very interested to hear all of this. So thanks so much again, and good luck in college and trying to become a child life specialist. I think that's amazing. And we definitely need more people with our condition kind of in the field as well, because we obviously kind of know our condition the best and how we feel with it. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us again today. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.